within Zinzino. And we also do have a very, very wonderful woman with us here today. She is our research developer, and she is one of these people that really are thriving and loving the subject of women's health and the nutritional aspects of it. So I'm really delighted that we have the chance here today to hear from her. Here is Dr. Emmalee.
Thank you, Hilde, and thank you so much for having me here. This is my favorite topic to talk about, health and nutrition, and today I'm going to focus on women's health. So I would like to share with you a presentation with some pretty interesting information, and especially we're going to start focusing on what Jacob talked about, because the nutritional aspect of women's health is the focus today. And if we see at the risk factors that are especially connected to women's health, we do see the known osteoporosis, for example. That's a loss in bone mass. We have iron deficiency and anemia and malnutrition. These are among the most common and most severe health aspects of nutritional aspects. And how to support it is, amongst other things, calcium and vitamin D, especially starting young, so you can build up that skeleton. So when it starts to degrade or you lose the mass, at least you have a lot from the beginning, so it will not cause problem. We also have iron is known to be extra important for women. But lastly, the malnutritional aspects that can happen to all sizes, all women can get malnutrition. And what is most important here is actually to get enough calories, because it is in the calories, and especially the fat, often that will determine how much of the vitamins and the minerals that you have in the food that you will actually absorb. So this is what I want to focus on today, about the fat quality and how important fat is for not only women, but in this case, especially for women. And if we look at the biological differences, the mechanisms that are different between men and women, we see, for example, the estrogen levels are one of the most influential hormones that we have. And when it comes to what the body composition, women have more of when we exercise, for example, when we are burning energy, we burn more of the fat mass. We have, body composition first, I'm going to talk about. We have more of the fat mass. Women have more fat mass on their body, and they have less free fatty acids in their system, whilst men have more less fat mass on their body. And the muscle fibers differ, and that will also have effect on how you burn energy and the metabolism and why things are different. But we come to this, the last one which I'm going to talk about now is when we are at rest, what the body uses for energy is quite important, because for men it's mostly free fatty acids, but for women we also use the storage, so what we have in storage. And this means that when men are at rest, they use what they have gotten from diet and what's circulating in the system, while women release a lot of fatty acids into their blood. So from their own storage, they release fatty acids. And this is especially true during, for example, pregnancy, that I've talked a lot about. This is, the hormones is in control of how the metabolism, what we need and how we burn fat and calories. And look at just the monthly ups and downs of hormones. And we see estrogen, for example. I'm not going to go into details on this. Actually, Colin went into detail on this last week, so you can always go and look at the meeting of minds from last week. But you can see here that the estrogen varies across the month, and that will also influence how you absorb and also use your fatty acids, essential fatty acids, because they are involved in selecting the substrate or selecting omega-3, omega-6, and how to make them into these inflammatory or anti-inflammatory metabolites. This will affect both the brain and your heart and the lungs and your reproductive system. So all of this, the estrogen, the hormones, the different levels across the month, across lifespan, all of this affects these systems in our body. And for example, just how we see the same month here, and we see that, for example, that temperature shifts during the month, also your respiratory rate and your heart rate variability, and also your resting heart rate will all shift. And this is actually from our own database, which we have so much information that can contribute to women's health and to research about fatty acid metabolism. And I'm so lucky to be able to work here and with this data. For example, here we can see the arachidonic acid levels, the differences between male and female in non-supplement users across the lifespan. And what we can see is that arachidonic acid actually decreases with age. So we have an age-dependent decrease in arachidonic acid, the more inflammatory fatty acids that we have. And we can see that if something happens later in life, or in the middle of life, of course, something shifts. So from having a gradual downward trend, we see that it increases again. So this is important to remember, how important, and also think that estrogen is something that will influence these levels. Here you see that females have higher arachidonic acid levels than males. And this is both, of course, diet, but also how the hormones are affecting us, because the hormones choose either omega-6, if that's what you have a lot of in your diet, or omega-3. So this will happen because the female need to use these all of the time. And we can also see when it comes to EPA and DHA, the levels are much lower. It is still the population that does not take any supplements. And we do see the opposite, that female have higher of the more anti-inflammatory across lifespan. And this is, again, both dietary habits, but also the estrogen being involved. And these differences, we don't see them in older adults. This is example from 3 groups: using balance oil, using other brands, and do not use balance oil. So even though you see the differences, for example, omega-3 still is increasing, you see that you can have much higher value, and that will affect this arachidonic curve. So you can, by increasing your omega-3, knowing that you're a woman, you will use these fatty acids, the essential fatty acids, more. It's going to be more produced into inflammatory or anti-inflammatory substrates in your body, or metabolites in your body, more often, more ongoing, all the time, every day, shifts, of course, during the month. So you need to, it's good to think about how much you actually can affect your everyday mood and the feeling, and also long-term health, by being really, sure, or you need to not skip your omega-3 supplements or eat more fish. That is what I wanted to present today, but now I would love to take question, because if I understood correctly, this would be a little bit with the Q&As also. Hilde, you get to decide.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Emmalee. So absolutely, I think that this is so relevant information, and I would love to hear if there is anyone that has any questions. Feel free to jump in and ask, because now we have an expert with us. You may raise your hand or just shout out if you have any questions. Now, it seems that you've done a really good job explaining this. Well, I think that, like, just a question from me. Like, do you feel that, like, studies shows that women in general would need more than men? Like, obviously, you say that indirectly here, but what's your feel around that?
It's since we do have a different body size, we do need lesser, but it's still the same if you think about kilo body weight. When you
I was just thinking about men or women.
I would say that it's more important that women are more regular and not skip or pause.
So the consistency is more important for women.
Yeah, and especially since this will not affect you in a couple of years, it will affect you the next couple of weeks. So I would say that the regularity and consistency is maybe more important. And those, of course, it will vary between women, but that's why you can test and try your way to the best dosage.
I see Michaela is asking, can the oils help with hormonal problems then?
Indirect, it will help, since if you're lowering your potential for inflammatory metabolites, this will influence hormonal reactions from your body. So indirect, but we today have not made tests to link it, but good idea to next project.
Maybe the next study, huh? Yeah. Always a lot of interesting things we can study. Hugo, you always have questions. Why don't you have questions here today?
Sorry. Well, I think it's great, Emmalee, what you have presented. And it is, of course, very, very important to understand that the consumption of these fatty acids are different. And when you get your omega-3 index up, particularly the EPA, we also see that my last test shows also that arachidonic acid ended up in 9.7. So it actually went over the green line because the body allowed itself to produce more. And I think I just want to comment on that hormone thing, because there is no doubt that a well-functioning cell membrane is the key to communication between cells and the entire body. So in one of my speeches last week, I said that, do you want to protect your 100 billion cells and your 1,000 billion microbiome? Because that's what we are all about. And do that, and you will be normal. And normal means no chronic inflammatory diseases, period.
Exactly. Thank you, Hugo.
And I think that's, just to add that, Emily, because I've learned it from you and all the people we worked with, don't focus. I actually, on the business planning session in Östersund last Tuesday, I showed the picture of FUS, you know, the medical catalog that is used by school medicine doctors of all the diagnosis and all the pharmaceutical products that they are prescribing. And that picture was 2 big books like this, right? And that was in 2015, and today it's only electronically. And it's just growing and growing and growing. The number of diagnoses, the number of ITs, you know, the inflammatory diseases is going through the roof, and they're inventing more diagnoses because people get different problems that they haven't seen before. Normalizing, that's what we're up to. Forget about all, you know, do it, take the test, see the potential. That's what we are here for.
Thank you, Hugo, for sharing. So Helena is asking, can our balanced oil help with increased function of thyroid gland? Obviously, we can't necessarily go into what our oils can do or not do, but I don't know if, would you like to comment on it?
I can comment like this, because I need to both interview you and talk to your doctor before being able to give you an answer. But I can say in general, since having the correct amount of omega-3s in your cell membranes, if you have that, you will have better response from cells. You will have better intake of nutrition in and out, the waste out, nutrition in, and the communication between cells and between body parts, between organs, all of that is going to improve. So if this is something affecting your condition, that will absolutely improve. But it depends on, maybe you have a genetic variation. I'm not able to answer in your individual case.
May I add to that, Hilde?
Of course.
Because the thyroid gland, it's so important to understand that this modern wheat we are eating, that gluten has the same molecular mimication, can actually copy and take the room for the T3, T4 that is controlling the production of T3, T4, in other words, to get your metabolism to work. And most of the people, they are eating this gluten, which is destroying the gut. So the gut is destroyed, that destroys your the thyroid gland, and they have too little iodine, which is the most important mineral to have to get it to work. And that's so the health protocol, yes, go there and stop eating this terrible gluten that the Swedes brought to us back in 1901.
Would you like to comment on it, Emily?
I'm sorry, Hugo, for bringing you the gluten. No, but absolutely, gluten is hard for the body to handle. If you are strong and healthy, you will have no problem in handling it. A lot of things are actually difficult for the body to handle, but in many cases, you are strong enough. But if you're not strong enough, if you have conditions, you have not allergy, you have broken a lot of bones, when your body is already in a state of protection and you give it other things that's hard, that will challenge it even more, that is when it actually can be damaging to you, I believe.